All right, welcome to WSQ number 11. Today we start chapter 4, which is the next 4 WSQs going to be talking about cell processes and energy. And so today we're going to start by looking at one of the most important processes that you've probably heard a lot about, which is called photosynthesis. And we're going to learn what photosynthesis is today and why it's important. So a couple objectives. One, we want to figure out how does sun supply living things with the energy they need? So why is the sun important? Secondly, what happens during the process of photosynthesis? And that's where we're going to begin today, is to look at that process. So first of all, the first thing we got to think through is understand the sources of all energy. Whether we're receiving energy from electrical energy, like you plug in a particular, your toaster into the wall outlet, whether you're getting your energy from the solar panel on your calculator, all things obtain their energy either directly or indirectly from sunlight, okay, and ultimately from photosynthesis. And so we want to kind of walk through that process today and make sure that we really understand this. How can I get to that point? So let's think of it this way. We started out, the sun is the source of all energy. So if we begin from the top, okay, we look over here, the sun is the source of energy for most living things. So let's think about an example. Plants, like a grass in my backyard or in your yard, use energy from the sun to make their own food, right? And they do that through the process we know of as, change my color here, we call that process photosynthesis, right? So through the process of photosynthesis, the plants use chloroplasts, which we learned, those organelles that are in the cells, use chlorophyll to capture the sun's energy, to take this energy and through the process of photosynthesis to store it as sugar, okay, to make their own food. Now, the zebra, so we take an animal, the zebra comes along and obtains energy by eating the grass, okay. As the zebra eats the grass, he's eating the energy that originally came from the sun, right? Step 1 was the sun. Step 2 was photosynthesis. Now here's the zebra in step 3 eating the food. We're getting the energy ultimately from the sun. Well, then the lion comes along and the lion eats the zebra. Now, tracing this back, could the lion eat the zebra if there was no sun? No, no sun, no grass, no grass, no zebra, no lion. And ultimately what we see is this cycle where even upper carnivores, like this lion, okay, are receiving ultimately their energy from the sun. And that's that cycle of how energy is processed. Now, when we talk about the different types of organisms, we need to understand there's really 2 types of organisms that we deal with. Okay, we deal with autotrophs and we deal with heterotrophs. Okay, autotrophs are right here, heterotrophs are right here. Autotrophs make their own food. So obviously this would be, plants would fit into this group. Okay, they make their own food. They use the process of photosynthesis. Heterotrophs cannot make their own food, so they must eat or absorb food from other organisms. So of course this would be organisms like animals. Okay, we can also get into some of the other organisms we're going to talk about, like bacteria, protists, things like that. So you can basically classify organisms into either being autotrophs or heterotrophs. So this grass right here would be an autotroph. The zebra would be a heterotroph. And so would this lion be a heterotroph. Okay? So you can see how important it is that we understand the 2 types. Those that make their own food, autotrophs. Those who don't, heterotrophs. Now, photosynthesis, as we said, we're going to address, there's really 2 stages. Okay, there's the first stage of photosynthesis where it actually captures the sun's energy. And then there's a second stage of photosynthesis where it uses the energy to make food. And we're going to talk about both of those through this image here. So in stage 1, we talked about before in the cells, inside of the cells we have these things called chloroplasts. And remember, chloroplasts are cytoplasmic organelles found in plants that are full of a little pigment called chlorophyll. And I don't know if it's got 2 L's. I think it does. Chlorophyll. Now, chlorophyll are these little tiny discs that are stacked upon each other. And their job is they absorb the sun's energy, okay, the UV energy, the light as it comes in, and they actually can store that energy as basically through the process of photosynthesis as sugar. So in photosynthesis, they need what we call, on one side, stage one, we're dealing with what we call the reactants. Anytime we're talking about a formula, we're going to deal with reactants. On the other side, we're going to deal with products. So every chemical reaction that we see in science, we're going to see reactants. That's what things goes in to the process, and products, what comes out. Classic example is you bake a cake. All the ingredients that you put into your cake, your flour, your sugar, your eggs, your milk, all that stuff are the reactants. What comes out, the cake, is your product. Okay? And so the reactants, what we need for photosynthesis to happen, we need sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water. They've got to have those three things: sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water. And what happens as photosynthesis occurs in the cell, the result, the products, are sugars, carbohydrates, and oxygen. Okay? So we have three reactants, we have two products in the process of photosynthesis. One thing you should understand too about chlorophyll that's important. Chlorophyll is a pigment. Okay, this gives the green color to leaves. That's also why, just a side question, how come roots aren't typically green? Well, think about it. Are the roots underground? Yeah. So since they're underground, do they need to have green pigment and chlorophyll? No, they're not doing photosynthesis. So the pigments are just the colored compounds that absorb the light. And so because the chlorophyll is a certain color, that color of green absorbs much of the light, which makes it more productive for the cell. Another thing just over here in the stage 2 portion, okay, so remember stage 1, it captures the energy. Stage 2, it takes that energy and makes food. They have on the bottom of these leaves these little openings called stoma. And stoma, okay, also sometimes you'll see them also called stomata. What's stomata with you? Sorry, bad joke. Stoma is singular, stomata is plural. The stomata are where the oxygen and carbon dioxide comes in and out of the leaves. So they'll come through these openings, and CO2 will come in and oxygen will escape out. And what's cool about the stoma is they have the ability, it's a little opening, so it can close it if they don't want to lose gases or gain gases, and they can open it as well. It's also used, we'll learn, for moisture control as well. Now, let's do our first equation. So this brings us to the photosynthesis equation. So what I have here is the equation for photosynthesis. 6CO2 plus 6H2O yields C6H12O6 plus 6O2. Now what that means, okay, that's actually telling us carbon dioxide plus water plus light energy yields sugar and oxygen. Anytime in science you see in an equation, this little arrow, this actually means yields. And yields refers to what comes out of it. There's a change. If it's equals, that means they're the same on both sides. So there's a change. Something happens from the reactant side, right? Here's my reactants, in this case, carbon dioxide and water, and my products are sugar and oxygen. So this equation would actually be read 6 carbon dioxide molecules plus 6 water molecules, okay? 6 carbon dioxide plus 6 water molecules yields, plus light energy, sorry, forgot that, plus light energy yields a sugar molecule and 6 oxygen molecules. That's how this writes, okay? So photosynthesis, really important that you know this. Okay, this is the basic process of photosynthesis. This comes in and this comes out. So the reactants are carbon dioxide and water and light energy, and the products are sugar and oxygen. Okay, that's photosynthesis in a nutshell. All right, now you're going to want to go, there's a cool activity, photosynthesis activity on phschool.com, CEP 1042, which really helps you understand the process. Encourage you to do that. You've watched the video, now you need to make sure you do those summaries and questions. Guys, we've had a lot of problems with people not completing them. Please do them. Okay, if you have any problems, issues, send me an email, talk to me in class. All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.